Hello, gorgeous listeners. Welcome to Are You Still Working? How to Take Your Creative Ideas Seriously. I'm Courtney Collins, and this is episode 2, an interview with musician Laura Jean. Before I begin, I want to tell you how this podcast got its name. My nan, Shirley, passed away a year ago. She was almost 90 and still doing Zumba. Whenever I visited Nan, she would squeeze me and say, "Are you still working?" You see, Nan was a working class woman who worked at the telephone exchange for a lot of her life. And as much as I tried to convince her, I don't think she thought that writing or creating was ever a proper job. I don't earn a weekly wage, and I don't even have a boss. It occurred to me that even the ones closest to us can struggle to understand the work we do, because so much of it happens unseen, and it changes. So perhaps this podcast is an attempt to explain to my Nana Shirley just what the work actually is, because I'm sure she's listening. So let's begin. Episode 2, Laura Jean, interviewed on Gadigal Country in Sydney's Inner West. Laura Jean makes beautiful music, at times ethereal, at times earthy and deeply personal. She's been shortlisted 3 times for the Australian Music Prize. She's recorded with the Drones and Paul Kelly, toured with Courtney Barnett, Aldous Harding and Marlon Williams. She's released 6 albums: Our Swan Song, Laura Jean's Edenland, A Full Hool, a self-titled album, Devotion, and her most recent, Amateurs. Amateurs is a pulsing examination of being an artist in this country. She's also studying arts law at the University of New South Wales, and I'm so thrilled to be talking to her today. Laura Jean.
Hello.
Hello. Are you still working?
Of course I am.
What are you working on at the moment?
For me, a big part of what I would probably term my working life is my 3 children, the 3 horses of my apocalypse, which is study, music and work. So my day job. And I need to constantly weigh up my priorities. So if something comes up with music, I have to say, I'm not going to be able to do my readings that day for law. Can I get away with that? And then if something comes up for my exam, I have to take leave from work. Our exams are now at home and they usually last for a couple of days. Sometimes I have to take leave. And then sometimes I'm at work and my manager wants to talk to me about something and I have to sneak away. So there's all this kind of tension between my works. Yeah. So music is kind of my life's purpose in some way. Like I can't separate music from myself. It just is. So that's always going to happen. Work, I need to work because I have to survive and I need to think about my career, think about, getting old, I'm going to need money, all that stuff. And then law is a couple of things. It's kind of, it's a bit emotional because there's some psychological element to why I chose to do it, because when I was a kid, I was super bright at school and was considered gifted, but I didn't actually finish high school. And I think I always regretted not reaching my potential with academia. And I always kind of wanted to be a lawyer. There's this little part of me that thought, that'd suit me. And then when I was about 35, I thought, I need to give it a go.
In releasing Amateurs and this incredible, in the way I listen to it, a kind of a critique of what it is to be an artist, what this culture we're in is telling us artists need to be and look like. And do you identify yourself as an amateur, and what does that mean to you?
My friend Simon Grounds, who I recorded my first couple of albums with and my bits of my second, bits of my third album, he's been like a mentor throughout my life. He's like a really amazing kind of original DIY record producer from the early 90s. He recorded like My Pal by God.
Wow.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So he took me under his wing when I was about 23 and he taught me lots and he still does to this day. And one of the things he said to me about 6 years ago was I was talking about amateurism or amateur or something, and he's like, "Laura, do you know what that word means?" And I'm like, "Oh, I never really thought about it." And he's like, "It means that you do something for love." And he said in some part of English history, it was quite prestigious to be deemed an amateur because it meant that you were quite upper class and you had the time to be an amateur scientist. It didn't mean that you were worse at it. It meant that you didn't have to do it for money and you could actually, make even more amazing discoveries because you didn't have that pressure. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting, different way to look at being an amateur. And then I started to think about the way that amateur is a negative term in our culture. In Australian culture, like you call someone an amateur if you want to give them an insult. And I thought, isn't it interesting that it's an insult to say someone does something for love? That was my guiding thought. And then everything from there, that's when it starts to come into the theme, like anything I see on TV or anything I notice in my everyday life, like Market on the Sand is just about going to the market with my mum and, getting annoyed. So everything starts to go through that little filter. All my albums are kind of concept albums and an idea that I want to express, and all the songs are part of that idea.
Did the process of making the album itself help you define, I guess, in the way you describe your children or the triumvirate, the horses, did it help you, I guess, separate your human needs into where they could potentially be satisfied or met?
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't answer your question about if I'm an amateur or not. And it's funny that I avoided it because I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know what I am. And that's the hardest thing of all, is that I really can't label myself in an industrial capacity of why I do what I do. The music industry has always left me cold. I don't like going to conferences. I don't like being around the music industry. I don't feel like what I do has much to do with commerciality. So it's very hard for me to say to someone, I'm a professional or I'm an amateur musician. I just am. And that can feel a little bit scary sometimes. And in regards to your question about separating my needs, absolutely, because music gives me that feeling of indulgence in a way, or what starts as indulgence and expression and then quickly becomes refining and working over a line, for a month, because I'm really rigorous with my songwriting. I'm more of a Leonard Cohen than a Bob Dylan, like Bob Dylan will write something in 5 minutes and Leonard Cohen will spend 12 years, and I'm more of that way. I like to really refine my phrasing and the ideas, and so that satisfies that part of me, and then law satisfies the part of me that is very rational and practical and wants to work out the jigsaw puzzle of whatever I'm learning. And then work satisfies my need to expose myself to worlds that I would never understand unless I had to just do this job. So I'm just talking to producers all day. They basically borrow money off us against money that they're going to receive later, tax offsets, things like that. So I got this insight, this tax-free, pardon the pun, insight into this world.
Can you give me an example of a moment or an experience where it feels like those worlds are cross-pollinating?
Absolutely. Like, I want my worlds to cross-pollinate. And when they do, it's thrilling, but it hardly ever happens. So, I mean, from an egoic standpoint, what really flatters me is when someone I work with or someone I'm studying with knows my music, because it makes me feel like my music has burst out of its Melbourne bubble, because my music's mainly appreciated in Melbourne and certain cities around the world, but Melbourne is where my main audience is. And that's beautiful, but I make music to be reachable, even though it's not necessarily commercial. I still want it to be friendly enough for people that aren't into music to be able to have some entry into. So it thrills me when my coworker Zach said, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend loves your record," or one of the students I studied with last year, she's like, "Oh, I really like your music." And then I had to do an assignment with her, and I wasn't that diligent, and I think it was a bit awkward by the end of it. But it's thrilling. It's thrilling. It makes me feel like what I do in music matters to people that aren't just my friends. And that makes me feel like I'm putting energy into something for a reason.
Yeah.
Not just for my self-expression, but it's meaning something to other people.
What do you think that meaning is, if you could name it?
When I teach songwriting, one of the classes I teach is about thinking about your archetype, like your Jungian archetype with songwriting, and kind of how that interacts with your everyday self. And when I did the exercise myself, I realized that a big archetype in my music is the relatable person.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to relate to people like-minded, give them a nudge and go, isn't this annoying? Like, don't you feel this? Don't you feel that? I'm trying to bring into the physical things that are very intangible so people feel like they're not alone, that what they feel is real and they shouldn't discount it but actually explore it, have a laugh about it, not take it too seriously, make something beautiful out of it, you know? Yeah.
We've touched just a little bit on class and I guess growing up in a working class culture or household.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a conversation we have very much in this context of making work and even being in this country.
Yep.
How has that impacted on you in terms of how you regard yourself as an artist and the work you're doing now?
Yeah, it's something that's really intense and it's really people don't like talking about it because we don't like to admit that we all struggle with different things and that not everyone is struggling with the same problems. I think people that might be supported by family money have their own problems. My particular struggle with my background, I guess, is firstly, I feel like some people that might have been raised with lots of resources think they're maybe possibly entitled to, oh, yeah, I'm an artist or I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businesswoman. Yeah, you know, that's me. Whereas for me, it's like I don't feel entitled to that life. And I was so lucky to have a few people come into my life growing up that opened the door. But I guess the reason I identify as working class is because my parents didn't go to uni and they were nurses, and my mum struggled with money and we struggled with housing. We moved all around the Central Coast, Gosford, Mooney, Terrigal. So me and Erica, my sister, grew up. We didn't have security. We moved all the time. It's hard to explain, but we grew up around a lot of housing commission situations. So a lot of my friends' parents were on welfare, stuff like that. So we grew up with this awareness of that. And then we also grew up with my Uncle Colin, like marrying Jane Campion. So Jane mentored me from a young age and she said to me, you can be creative. You can be an artist. You're allowed to do this. My mum and dad wouldn't have told me that. So that was like life-changing.
Do you remember that moment? Was it a little sprinkling of?
She would just say little things to me all the time. Like they got married when I was about 9 or 8 or something, and she'd just be like, why don't you try this? Why don't you do this? And Jane comes from a rich family and didn't really understand me and Erica's background. So she'd try and take us shopping. And Erica and I are like, what? Shopping? What do you do when you go shopping? Like for clothes? Like, don't you just go to Salvos or like? And I remember Jane tells this hilarious story taking me and Erica shopping in some lovely boutique in Sydney. And she's like, all you guys wanted to do is go to Macca's. We were intimidated because we grew up in a working class way. We didn't do nice things. That was a revelation. So me and Erica grew up exposed to all kinds of levels of wealth. Yeah. It's a long-winded story, but it goes into my identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I have to work harder. It's like this thing of I can't just waft around and be an artist. I have to work my ass off. I've got to treat it like a job in as much as I need to work on it. If I'm writing a song, it's not just going to happen. I have to like refine it, and not just like in a cute way, like in a full-on way, as in every day for months and months and months. I have to work on these songs.
I sometimes think of myself as a bricklayer, just like I'm just laying down another word, I'm just laying down another sentence, and not to tell some big story about it, just a bricklayer in the sun.
Exactly. It's like you, from what the language available to your background, you know, my parents were nurses, so sometimes I feel like I'm in the healing practice because I'm making these concoctions, you know, and that's how I think about it sometimes too.
You're way beyond this, but there is something about the moment where you learn to take your ideas seriously. Can you describe that? Can you?
It's like discovering a superpower.
Yeah.
Like when I started to consciously work on my songwriting. I probably was subconsciously refining and working on my craft as a songwriter before this, but from about my fourth album, which is my self-titled album, that's when I started to go, hang on, I've got a choice here. I don't have to live with that lyric. I don't have to live with this bit. I can be the listener and the writer, and I can take out that bridge that doesn't feel right. And I can put something in that I'd want to hear if I was listening to this. And when I realized that I could make a song more effective with craft, it was like, ooh, shit. It felt amazing. And also bringing other people into the process is really important. I realized that I needed to bounce my songs off other people for them to be better than I could get them. Like Girls on the TV was a very long process of saying to people, what do you think of this bit? And got really valuable feedback from lots of people about where they wanted it to go. Because Girls on the TV was just like a line in the first verse. And then Jess Cornelius from Teeth and Tongue said, oh, I really want to hear Girls on the TV again. That's a really good line. And I'm like, okay. And that's when I wrote the chorus. So bouncing off people is really important because it can take the song higher than you can take it yourself.
And how do you know what feedback to take in and let go of?
It's more, how do you know who to ask? It's like choosing who you ask carefully, knowing that like Talia, my best friend, and my sister Erica are my vibe checkers. So like they'll just straight out go, it's not fun. It's not like, it's not working. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
My sister really helped me out with a funny thing happened. I was getting a bit bogged down in all these little stories and she's like, just say the big stuff. Just say the money lines. Like just say, I'm going to have an American baby, drop it and walk away. And I'm like, cool. And Talia will just be like, oh, yeah, you know, it's not working yet. And then there's people like Aldous Harding, who's a very close friend, and she'll help me with more specific things like, oh, that's not it, or that word isn't working. And same with Alex Gow from Oh Mercy. I'll often say, what's wrong with this line? And he's like, oh, it's because it's this, because he's a wordsmith. You've got to ask wordsmiths about the words, vibesmiths about the vibes. And you got to know who to ask, and then you just trust them.
And is that something that gives you, I'm calling it courage and confidence to keep going and to go deeper in, you know, deeper into craft, deeper into yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm a very relationship-oriented person. My relationships are the most important thing in my life. My relationship with my friends, my family, they are why I do everything. Like they're just my guiding light. So involving them gives me courage because it makes me feel loved and supported. And you need to feel that, because out there in the wilds of Australian culture, working for 3 months refining one line in a song probably isn't given the support that your friends and family will give you on that, because they understand that you have to do it for whatever reason. That's just who you are. Yeah.
In terms of the work of songwriting and the mood state that you want to be in, do you prepare yourself to do that work? What do you do?
Well, I think a lot about how writing and being creative, it's not something that you just sit down and do. It's like making a garden. You can't just grow a flower. You have to prepare the soil for like months. People get into this productivity mindset, like I've got to do something. I've got to produce something. That's not what being an artist is. It's not producing. It's a way of living. You have to live it. You got to like sensitize yourself. And that's the hardest thing about being an artist is committing to deciding to be open. You've got to be affected. And to be affected means pain. It's kind of what people miss about the whole artist thing. It's not just like, oh, yes, I just made this and now I'm at my art exhibition opening and it's glory. No. To make that person had to cry and sit in a dark room and ask themselves some hard questions and miss work and offend someone. And it's all pain. We all want to avoid pain. So being an artist is actually putting yourself consciously in the way of some pain so you can transmit that pain into something beautiful. Any intensity you feel, that's where beautiful things come from. If you decide you're going to take that and put it into a painting or into a song. I don't know if I answered your question at all.
It does majestically, I would say, but I want to know more.
Yeah.
So is there an icon or an image that reminds you to keep that state?
That's right. We're talking about state. So the way that I prepare is it happens automatically now because I've been making songs since I was 16, and it's just the way I live now. I live in this songwriting cycle. So once I've finished a block of performing, as I just have, I find it hard to write and perform. Like, performing is its own thing, and I can't really take writing seriously when I'm trying to work up the courage to get up in front of people. But I've just finished a block of performing, and now I can naturally feel my mind and heart opening. It's like I decide to pay attention to everything. The other night I was just sitting at Town Hall Station, and this group of teenagers got off the train, and there was something about the way they were walking, the way they were dressed. They were holding these squidgy silver balloons that said 1 and 9, and that was kind of bumping through the industrial space of Town Hall, and I'll just have a little tear. And I'll write a poem or I'll write it down, like what I felt, or I'll just describe the situation. And then when songs usually come out, I'm in like this semi-trance state. So what I like to do is I put on free-to-air telly or something, and I sit on the couch with my guitar in my lap, and I just watch something shit on TV that I'm kind of like watching but not really watching. And then I fiddle around with my guitar while I'm doing something else but not. And that helps me, my conscious mind, kind of get out of the way so my hands can go where they want to go. I remember once I was just sitting there with my nephew and we were doing something, and I was just playing guitar, and I wrote something that became a song. So it's like if I sit down and go, I'm going to write my guitar line now, no, that's just, it never happens. You've got to have your guitar just there all the time. I got it this morning, actually, and last night. My guitar's in the garage because I just got back from touring. I'm like, I got to get my guitar out because I'm getting that feeling again that I have to play. I've got things I need to get out on the guitar. Yeah. I need to have it in my space. I think it's important to have something to write on just on the table around you at all times, so you can just grab it and go with your intuition and just play when you feel like it. Some people do it a different way, like they have scheduled time, which can be really great too, but my personality is a bit looser, and I just do it when I'm feeling this. It's a restless feeling. It's like a restless, emotional, kind of funny feeling that comes over me.
So this thing of love, the practice of being an amateur, when you're describing the way you are in the world, who you are in the world, it sounds like the love for the work is innate. How do you stay in love?
So with the work. So love for the work as in the work process. So the process of the work, or love for the work when it's finished, or more like love for the process?
Well, in my practice, so I'm revising a novel at the moment. And so my work cycles are that this is another cycling through a draft. And I'm really conscious of staying in love with the work, because there's an exhaustion that can set in. Yes. And that moment of going, I've got to get it away from me.
I know that so well.
I'm done. Like, leave me be.
Yep.
So that's a long-winded way of asking.
I totally know what you mean. It's like a long-term relationship. It's a similar principle where you're in a relationship with this work, and sometimes you just want to leave it. You just want to get out of there. And if you want to stay with that work, you have to allow yourself to just leave inside for like a few days and give up. It's okay to give up. Just don't erase the work. Don't give up in a dramatic way. So don't erase all your demos and, paint over your painting. It's an uncomfortable feeling because it means the work is still alive and it's still there, and sometimes all you want to do is cut it up so it doesn't exist anymore, and it's not this thing that's demanding something from you. So what I tend to do is live with the uncomfortable feeling of it not being finished, and I decide to give up for a few days. And it usually just takes like a few days of giving up before I want to start working on it again. It's kind of like having space from someone you love, like someone you live with that you're in love with. You know, sometimes you just need to be like, I'm having 2 days on my own or whatever.
Yes.
And then you do that and you just want to see them after 2 days. And all you need is just this conscious walking away and then you can walk back to them. And love is walking back to them and not walking away, walking somewhere else, deciding that you're going to walk back to the work with all its flaws. I stay in love with the work by imagining what I could do. Oh my God, like imagine the bass doing this here. Imagine the strings coming in here. Imagine what it could make people feel. Imagine the thrill of this song. Because I know that the emotion in the work is thrilling, so I just have to let that somehow get to that place where the song is channeling that emotion efficiently so it thrills people, you know.
Thank you. I just actually felt an energetic force field open up. I was like, I'm going to travel far with that. So I know that you've taught songwriting and you mentor songwriters. Can you talk about that process and how you impart this, what feels like hard-won knowledge and wisdom, like your own lifelong learning? How do you ever distill that?
I love teaching so much, and my years teaching at Melbourne Polytechnic was so informative for me as a songwriter as well as hopefully for the students. Basically, I can't really teach them to be pop stars, and I kind of do a disclaimer. I said, I'm here to teach you how to write a song that you feel as though is successful for you and that you've effectively communicated what you want to. I can't teach you how to be really famous or successful in a money way. So prefacing that, I've designed exercises and classes that help them investigate themselves and start looking at themselves objectively as a songwriter, because it's very easy when you're doing creative things to be really protective of every idea you have, as though the idea is you, as though it's like some part of you, and teaching them to detach themselves from their ideas, and so the ideas can be worked on. You know, I'm not criticizing you, I'm criticizing this idea to try and make it more understandable so you can communicate with people. So it's as simple as that. And some of my students have become amazing songwriters. I'm so proud. Yeah.
In terms of the communities that you've reached and who have really embraced your music, being big in Melbourne, being famous, Melbourne famous.
It's a thing.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Oh, look, I moved to Melbourne when I was 19 and started playing open mic nights and got into the ears of Richard Moffat from Triple R, who had a show called Incoming, and he also booked the Corner Hotel and he booked Falls Festival, and was like a music industry person. So he started putting me on as support. And I made my first EP in 2003. I realised a shift when people could take something home and listen, as in I started releasing CDs. That's when I started to build an audience and not just kind of play to the random people in the pub every time I did a gig. And from there, I guess people that started listening to me in the early 2000s, a lot of them have stayed with me, shown their friends. And so it's just become this very beautiful community of people that have been coming to see me play for almost 20 years. Apart from that, you know, Melbourne, as we all know, has such strong community radio. Because of Triple R, people like me have been able to build a really strong audience just because people listen to it. It's amazing.
The first time I saw you perform was at the Spanish Club.
Oh, yeah.
And you had a full orchestra behind you.
That was my first album launch.
You walked out on stage. I think you had a flannelette shirt on. And then you just delivered this astonishing performance. And it was a packed house. And I remember being in the audience and just knowing that you would be an influence on my life and my creative world. And I am really so thrilled to be having this conversation with you. It could be like 15 years later, possibly.
Oh, that was 2006. So
2006.
It's 17 years.
Nice. Well done.
We're still here, Courtney.
You're still standing. Thank you, Laura Jean.
Pleasure.
There is so much to love about Laura Jean. If you haven't listened to her albums, listen to them now. Devotion and the track Girls on the TV is my absolute favourite. After this interview was recorded, Laura Jean shared some of the things that help her do the work. And you can find those by following us on Instagram at Are You Still Working, where you can stay connected to creative prompts and other episode highlights. Are You Still Working is an independently produced podcast by me, Courtney Collins, and produced by Lisa Madden. If you enjoyed listening, you can support us by reviewing it and telling all your friends. Till next time.